I think the big question on everyone's minds in the retro emulation scene is, have we peaked? Is this it? Is this the decline we've been waiting for? Today I'm going to talk about why the RG406V is great and why it may mark the beginning of a different era in retro emulation. So let's talk about some of the new features that are pretty cool on here. It has video out on the USB port now, like the RG Cube that Anbernic brought out. So I like to test this with my goggles, my glasses, my XR glasses. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is this is a boxed screen. So Android by default will have the screen, so 4:3 here, 4:3 here. It's not going to stretch it to 16:9. Those things you can set. So the 16:9 4:3 thing that you can change in developer settings. Another feature that you can also enable is to make this the mouse. So you control your screen here, you have a mouse on your screen here, and you have a screen there. That's quite nice because it is a touch-enabled device. If you are wearing something like glasses, having just a little mouse here is quite cool. Those things are manageable. Now, something I did want to check from my last few videos is pass-through. I need my glasses. I'm not a middle-aged man doing tech reviews. Okay, so the glasses go in there. I just want to put my charger in the other side. This is a little pass-through cable that Vertuo supplied me with my glasses. Let's see quickly what happens. So that's a USB-C to USB-C fast charging, which isn't working. Here's just a normal USB-A to USB-C. We're going to try that. And it's just a normal output. Okay, so that cable did charge, but it's not working with the pass-through. So you don't get pass-through charging. So far, the products that I've reviewed, it does seem to be a premium feature. Maybe the video out USB circuitry is a little bit more expensive. So you don't get pass-through charging on here. And then docking. Someone made a rude remark because I was talking about docking in the last video. So thank you for that. He talked about docking his friends, which is interesting. Then I want to check, this is a cheap dongle you can get on Amazon, and I'm just using my little studio monitor here with HDMI out. Let me just show you. There you go. There's the Android screen projected to my little studio monitor, and it works fine. Let's see. Yeah, it's working. This is the Wukong 8-bit Do controller, like the beautiful controller that Agnes, an Amazon store, sent me to review. It's just a stunning controller. Cool, so 2.4 gigahertz isn't working, but Bluetooth is working. A controller like this is marketed as being Android compatible. Some Bluetooth madness for you. The other nice thing to have is a higher resolution screen. This screen is a higher resolution than the outgoing RG405V. I think that where you do see it is where you upscale games, because now you can upscale some of your games from their old one to the new one. So that's nice, but I wouldn't consider that a huge bonus. I know a lot of people went on about that, but I just don't think it's a massive win. I don't think a higher resolution on a device like this is a huge thing. Where it did play a big role is a device like the RP Mini, the Retro Pocket Mini, where it's AMOLED, very high resolution, and it looked almost like it was jumping out the screen. That was pretty cool. But here, I just don't feel like it's something to write home about. It's a nice to have, but it's not something to go crazy about. I assume this would have fast charging, but it supports 5 volt 2 amp charging, which is just normal USB charger support. So it doesn't do fast charging. In terms of hardware and buttons, we are looking at very much the same thing, except for one detail. A little bit on the rattly side. Start and select are these sort of hard plastic soft press membrane buttons, so that's nice. The press of it is nice. I don't like the sort of feeling of the buttons. Your function button in the middle is a soft click, which is fine. Something that is bothering me on here is that one of my LEDs are faulty, which is a bit of a pain. We have been talking about whether there are going to be chinks in the armor with Anbernic's quality control, and maybe there is. The rumble motor on here is the same like sort of junky rumble that we had in a bunch of other devices. It's just a nasty vibration. It doesn't feel nice compared to something like the Retro Pocket Mini, which feels like a premium controller rumble motor. Something that a lot of people are going to like is the RG launcher. You press the button, the games go away. You press the buttons, the games are back. There are limitations to this. So it's got limited front ends, limited looks and feels to the front end. The user interface isn't the best, and you aren't going to get artwork scraping on here. So a little bit of limitation on this, but if you are a beginner and you don't know what else to do, a lot of people comment on the channel saying, what can I use that's just plug and play? I just get up and go, I don't want to fiddle around. That is where Anbernic have done a good thing with this, because you literally press a button and the games are ready to roll. Sometimes there are little tweaks that need to be done, and the fact that they use emulators that are either paid or old versions, they're just it's a mishmash and a bit of a mess in terms of the emulators that are being used. So that's more of a moral issue from my standpoint and other YouTubers' standpoint. But in terms of getting up and going with this thing, it is really handy. It reminds me of the old iPod video. To be able to play media on here is quite nice. The colors are very good. This screen in particular, with media, if you are going to fly on a plane and watch videos, the screen does make quite a big deal. The colors are very natural and it feels good. And then gameplay, in terms of out-of-the-box gameplay, no tweaking, no fiddling around. 3DS was interesting because I've got that two-screen setup. But on this screen, I like to set one of these L3 or R3 to switch between screens. So I just feel like single-screen 3DS games are going to be great on here. Gameplay for 3DS specifically is a lot better than the previous generation. So all the sort of performance benefits you got on the RG556, the RG Cube, all those devices, same chipset, you're getting that performance boost on here. To go back to the emulators that they use on here, Ether SX2 is on here for PS2. It's not Nether SX2, which is the sort of final lying place of Ether SX2. So it's not the latest version in terms of that. It's probably not tweaked, but it does work and it works fine. You've got to disable the on-screen controls for those emulators. So even though they've done sort of a plug and play thing, there's a lot of little tweaks that need to go into it. And in the end, it might just be better for you to set it up really nicely on something like Show. I really want to do a crash course for Android, specifically for these devices, the RG556, the Cube, the RG406V. So let me know in the comments if that's something that you are looking for, because I think I need to make a video about that. Something simple, quick and easy that you can jump in, get it set up and get going. So on that note, let me quickly do a crash course on how to use this. So the first thing that I would get, and I'll put the links to these in the description, is something called Obtainium. It's on a GitHub page, you download it and you install it. Once Obtainium is on here, I'll give you another link where you can get apps for Obtainium. So Obtainium brings all these GitHub pages together where we get all these little bits of software, and it brings it down into sort of like an app store environment on your device. So what I would say there is get the Dolphin emulator, the nightly version from this Obtainium app place. The RetroArch, get the 64-bit build for RetroArch. Get Show, you can get Show, the latest version from that website. Lime 3DS, and you can get Vita 3K from there. Other emulators to either download or buy. DuckStation, get DuckStation. I prefer using DuckStation than RetroArch for PlayStation. M64 plus FZ is a paid app. I would just go buy it on the App Store. Nether SX2, I'll also send you the link of that. There's a little bit of a setup, but all of it is on this GitHub page that someone has put there for us. Drastic, go buy Drastic from the App Store. All these emulators will need to be set up. You'll need to link the BIOS, link the ROMs, and you'll map your controls for every single emulator. Then in Show, link up the paths where your ROMs are kept, and then you'll want to go in. Usually it will select the right emulator for you, but if it hasn't, go into that section and link up an emulator that you have or downloaded. That's pretty much it. Like I say, check my detailed app setup guide for the Retro Pocket 4 Pro. A lot of that will work here. I will be doing a video for these Anbernic devices to give you a detailed but quick setup guide. Now quickly I want to do a summary because I want to talk about who is this device for? I want to talk about that because this is the RG405V, which I really liked. I had a very bad flu and I was in bed. I played a game that I may not name for that entire time. I switched between the two screens and I really enjoyed it. Very powerful enough for those systems. Even these Switch joysticks were fine. The ergonomics are great. I really loved it and I still love it. Great ergonomics, great grip. It's very nicely built. The audio is acceptable for down-facing speakers, even though I don't like downward-facing speakers, but that compromise is so that you can hold it nicely like this. It is a very well thought out device, even though it is probably one of the uglier devices on the market, although this white one is really nice. I like the white. The big changes, like I mentioned, there's a lot of pros. One of the massive downsides is that these sticks protrude comically out of the device. When the Retroid Pocket 2S came about, we complained that these joysticks stuck out too much and ruined the pocketability of it. This is a pocketable device. You shove this in your pocket and it's pocketable. So the sticky outy sticks isn't as big a deal, but this protrudes at least double the amount. It's really sticking out a lot. I just find it quite annoying. They are very nice joysticks, very smooth joysticks. All the other retro handheld YouTubers have covered this. The motion of these is great. Doesn't snap to cardinals. All the things that we've been complaining about on these devices is better here. I've been saying, on a device like this, snapping to cardinals isn't such a big deal. You're not going to be playing a lot of games that need detailed control from the joysticks, and that's why Nintendo went with them on the Switch. But now when you're getting more powerful, you're going to want to play those nice games on the PS2 or the GameCube that need that bit more control, unless, like for instance, the Retroid Pocket 5. That needs to have great sticks because you're going to stream on that. You're going to play your PC games on that. It's going to need very, very good controls. It doesn't have analog triggers. I don't think they needed these. I honestly don't. I know a lot of people say, oh, great, we got these wonderful joysticks. I just don't think it was necessary. The incremental update from the RG405V to the RG406V is very incremental. And I've kind of talked myself into a corner here because when it arrived, I thought, this is wonderful. A great device that's even better. But it's so incremental that was it even necessary? When Bob Wolf posted about this on Twitter, he was like, for the first time I've told the company that I'm not interested, it's not interesting enough. And I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards Bob Wolf's opinion because it's just such an incremental change that if you own this, don't get this. It's pointless getting this. However, on the other side, and this is where I don't agree with Bob at all, if you don't have one of these, and if you've been shopping around for a vertical device, this is the best vertical device on the market. That's like a bombshell because of what I've just said. But it really is. It's exceptional. It plays so many games. It's got wonderful controls. It feels good in the hand, and it's got a beautiful screen. And so that brings me to my final point because I am now preaching. Is this the end? That was my clickbait thumbnail. Is this the end? I've always asked this, where are we headed? And TechDweeb debates this with me because he says, what is retro? Retro is going to change as we're going along. There, I agree with him. Gaming is also changing. The technology is changing. And the devices we play them with are going to change. We've hit a ceiling with PS2 and GameCube. Those emulators aren't being developed. We are getting more performance, but the emulators aren't getting better to match that performance. This, to me, is the peak of retro gaming right now. The PS3 emulator for Android, that's kind of the next frontier. Once we do that, then we're done. A lot of us like to collect these things, and that's great because there are these nice, cute little devices. The next one I'm going to review is the RGB10X, a lovely device from PowerKitty that a collector will love. All these devices are great. People who want to progress from this to a real gaming device will get the Retroid Pocket 5 or the AYN Portal, something like that. This incremental upgrade from the RG405V to the RG406V maybe doesn't mark the end, but it definitely marks a shift in our retro gaming scene. We all have a memory when we upgraded our iPhone and it was basically the same thing with a few minor changes. That's pretty much what this is, except the whole planet isn't addicted to these. The whole planet is addicted to cell phones, and so Apple was safe. In my mind, a decline in these sorts of devices is imminent. I said in a previous video that I think people like Anbernic, if they don't move on to Windows or Linux-based mini Steam Decks or something like that, they're going to be relegated to a few of their models. This device probably will stand the test of time. But those are the models they'll be selling. They'll scale down and pump out those devices for a few years. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do think that we are heading into an imminent shift in the mid to lower range retro emulation devices, going into a bit of a decline, and then a bit of a rise in the mid to high range devices like the AYN Portal and the Retroid Pocket 5.